Welcome to an Oracle APEX generative development overview. It's all about building intelligent enterprise apps that you can trust. My name is Jason Haynes, and I'm an Oracle APEX product manager, and I represent the Americas. I'm on the APEX team and part of database tools team. Today, we're going to talk about what Oracle APEX is. I mean, really, what is this product? Well, Oracle APEX is a no-cost feature of all Oracle databases. It enables us to build AI-powered enterprise apps with world-class features, which is really key to the whole success of using the product. You can do this with the help of AI using no code and low code at the same time. Now, Apex is a product that goes well beyond no code, low code. You can even bring in aspects of high code so that you can deliver a solution using Oracle Apex on the Oracle stack with Oracle Database, doing all the things that your requirements dictate with no limitations at all. Oracle Apex is trusted worldwide to deliver mission-critical, data-driven apps that are secure, scalable, and most importantly, easy to maintain. So Oracle Apex is available everywhere Oracle Database. That means on-premises, on cloud, in the multi-cloud, which includes, Azure, that includes AWS, that includes now Google Cloud Platform, and you can even deploy Apex in a virtual machine. Apex is a fully supported, no-cost feature of Oracle Autonomous Database and all Oracle Database distributions and editions. So everything about Oracle Apex can be found at oracleapex.com, independent of all this chatter from me today. So if you go to oracleapex.com, you can browse all the good information that is available on the website, but you also should know that you can get started for free today here on our own customer evaluation instance, where you can request a workspace for free, no credit card required, and then you can start experimenting or developing your apps on this particular instance right away. Once you've requested that workspace from the Getting Started page, you then can come back to oracleapex.com and sign into that workspace and begin the process of exploring what you can do with Apex. For now, let's go ahead and jump into a simple Apex application that illustrates how several of these world-class features can come together while including some AI functionality. And to do this, I'm going to switch over to my web browser. Of course, here I am in my browser. This is Microsoft Edge. I went to oracleapex.com, and it does redirect to oracle.com/apex, so that's expected. And this is where all that good information is. And as you scroll down the page, you're going to see a lot of great information that's probably relevant to the questions you might have. But what we're going to do is I'm going to open up another tab, and I'm going to go to a bookmark where I have an application ready to go. With all Oracle Apex apps, when you first sign into an app or request the app by way of URL or a bookmark, you are prompted to sign in with a username and password. And in doing so, you are then satisfying the authentication credentials required to get into an app. Now, understand that when you build an app from scratch in Apex, as we'll illustrate in just a little bit, all apps are secure by default. From there, you can add single sign-on, you can add the ability to work with social sign-in, and a whole bunch of other different configurations. But this configuration for this app is really, really simple. I'm signing in with Demo and Demo 2025. Having done so, I'm now looking at my app, and I'll go ahead and I'll zoom in on the browser just a little bit to let you see what what the content is. But as far as those world-class components are concerned, this is divided into two immediate overt sections. There's information on the left side. This is a particular region type in Apex that we call a faceted search. It comprises a whole bunch of different facets that are pre-configured and also is generating statistics based on the data set that's configured to work with it. So this faceted search is working on a source of data with 427 New York City high schools. It's just a demonstration data set. You could use your own data set to build an app just as quickly as we will in a little bit. But the point is, I'm seeing another component on the right side, which is what we call an Apex CRUD region. And this region is mapped to that data set, in addition to the faceted search. So in fact, although I see 427 schools as the count, I can see there are 33 of those that involve computer science and technology. If I click on that, the report is immediately refreshed and filtered. Furthermore, I can see 3 of those schools offer volleyball. That's just a way we can slice and dice our data very quickly. And this is typical of our end users. They always want to filter the data to find what they're interested in. And this demo application is set up to exercise some of these capabilities really nicely. Let me go ahead and clear all. What I can also do is I can just search for a keyword like king. When I type in king, I see there are 8 records that have king. From there, I can go ahead and clear that filter again. And then I can even see, in addition to this cards region, there's an option for map region. When I click on map, I'm now looking at a map of New York State and around Manhattan. The little home there is the Empire State Building, just because, but all of these different little pins are these different schools from this data set. And this is just another world-class component that Apex developers can put right on their apps with no code at all. In fact, everything I'm showing you in this app can be built with no code at all. And I'm going to walk you through that in a little bit. But what's more, I have a button here, and this button is labeled Ask a Question. And when I click it, the Apex app knows that when I click that button, it should open up another user interface that interacts with a large language model in the background. And in this particular case, it's configured with a prompt set of guardrails where what would you like to know about New York City high schools is the default prompt. And I can then ask questions like, what is the best school? In doing so, Apex communicates with the Oracle database, then it communicates to the large language model that's configured for this app with this particular purpose. And I can see it's a conversation just like any other chatbot we've all used so far. But the point is, you can bring this functionality in any Apex app on top of your data with no code at all. And you can continue to leverage it as a developer, even with some low code. And there are even some higher code opportunities available as well. In fact, anything you can imagine of a web app that you need to have do various things can be built in Apex. More or less, it's not really a question of if it can be done in Apex, it's really about how can you do it in Apex. There's a little bit more going on in this app, and we'll revisit that in a few moments. So that was just a quick review of an app with a bunch of several world-class features, including AI functionality. It does not end there. So what the Apex advantage is you can quickly create apps that meet business objectives. You're focusing on the intent of the app, not how to actually code it. So you're spending less time in maintenance going forward because Apex is all about these world-class components. You're able to add AI to your apps, and that's not just a chatbot. You can do interactivities with those large language models and then weigh in on summarizations of data and get responses on the app. You can do so many things in Apex apps on top of AI, but that is just the beginning. You can build these enterprise-ready applications and get all the security, scalability, performance, and reliability of Oracle database. And that's from everywhere. Wherever you can have your Oracle database stood up, you can expose these Apex apps that you build to your customers and users. In addition to Apex being included with Oracle database at no additional cost, it's no extra cost for unlimited workspaces, unlimited administrators, unlimited developers, as well as the number of apps and users. So it goes way beyond building a proof of concept app for maybe a couple users. You can literally scale these apps in Apex to millions of users, entire regions of the public, entire regions of private sector. You can configure your apps to cater to your users regardless of where they are on the earth. The overview of Apex and the low-code application platform it's known as is low-code developers. It starts there. If you've ever used Excel, you are ready to dive in to learn about Oracle Apex and how you can quickly build these same kind of apps that I'm demonstrating today. But they go way beyond simple spreadsheets, right? You can control the full user interface and the full user experience, as well as get all the benefits of Oracle database in the back end. But it's not just for low coders. It's also for professional software engineers alike, line of business developers, and even data scientists. The whole idea with Apex is it brings to fruition the ability to reduce the time, the cost, and the complexity of these solutions, while you can focus on improving the user experience overall, the capability, and the success of the entire project. Now, many ask about the architecture of Apex. So, although I've mentioned Apex is included with all Oracle databases, just because you have an Oracle database doesn't mean you can get to that Apex instance. This is where we have to talk about this architecture. It's really three-tier. It's all about every modern web browser. And it doesn't matter if it's just on your desktop or tablet. It could be your smartphone, right? Your Android phone, your iOS phone. It doesn't matter. They all support the modern web browser standard. So from there, you can use a URL to target a particular Apex instance at a particular cloud environment, an on-premise environment, or otherwise. But to get to it requires this middle tier architecture, and that is the web server itself. The web server with Apex today always refers to Oracle REST Data Services, otherwise known as ORDS, as the middleman in this context. So you're using a URL. That URL targets that ORDS instance, and then it conveys the communication to this Oracle database, whether it's 19C or 26AI. And that's where Apex then does all the magic. From there, understand, of course, you can leverage other web servers such as Oracle WebLogic or Apache Tomcat and deploy ORDS within a container therein, and then benefit from all the features of those web servers. But at the very minimum, it's these three layers. Now, it's not that you require your data in the local Oracle database where Apex is exposed, because that data that is consumed by your Apex app can be completely remote. And the way Apex deals with that is a feature of Oracle database known as REST services or web service calls. But in Apex, that boils down to no code REST endpoint configuration. So you can leverage any REST API for any REST or any other purpose by way of Oracle database and the features in Apex with no code to consume and interact with all those services. This involves remote data. This includes AI services as well as machine learning, as well as insert your endpoint here. And then MCP server functionality, that's really the rage lately, are just other components of functionality of various tools that can be leveraged to work with Apex in different ways. Now, I did gloss over DB links. DB links is an important concept with Oracle database because an Oracle database can reach out and touch other local databases by way of these DB links on local networks. It can also be done from cloud back to on-prem over Fast Connect. But here we're going way beyond and outside the scope of just Apex itself. But just bear in mind, what can Oracle database do? If you're leveraging Apex to solve your business requirements in terms of an app, then it's a fact of Apex taking advantage of all those features of Oracle database. So let me show you how a developer can create a secure production-ready application literally in seconds. I'm going to go back to my web browser. This is where that New York City school demo app is in this tab. But I'm going to go back to the website, oracleapex.com. And here I can literally sign in. I've already requested my workspace. I've built a few apps. And when I hit sign in here, this is what an Oracle Apex developer will see. Now, although this is oracleapex.com, understand that I'm going to be signing into my workspace. Your workspace will have a different name. And in fact, your instance of Apex might have an entirely different URL. If you're in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, it'll be different. If you're in AWS, etc., or even on-prem, you're going to have a different URL to hit your targeted instance of Apex. Now I'm going to use my password manager to unlock my credentials, and I'm going to sign into this workspace. And having done so, this is now what Apex looks like. This is the integrated development environment. I can see from the New York City High Schools tab being opened, I'm actually being told by this set of reports here at the dashboard level that my top app is that same New York City High School demo app. I did sign in as a demo parent user, but I was also signed in as Jason Haynes as well. However, at the high level, we can see there are four major modules here. There's the app builder, where we'll go and explore existing apps we've already built, or we can create new apps. There's also the SQL Workshop module, which enables us as Apex developers to just use our web browser to interact with our instance of Oracle database. In fact, every time we create a workspace, I created PM_team, a parallel schema in that Oracle database was created. And I can see this if I go to SQL Workshop, which I'll do in a moment. But our other modules include team development, as well as the gallery of apps. We have a number of sample Apex applications that demonstrate various capabilities and feature functionality. So you want to get acquainted with the various gallery apps that we have available if you want to learn about particular things. Just think, I want to learn more about maps. I want to learn more about visual workflow. I want to learn more about charts. There's a sample app for that. But I want to build an app. And to do so, the first thing you need to consider is that you should have data first in your schema. But when you create a new workspace with Apex, you get that fresh schema. It has no data. So one of the things you're going to want to do is leverage the functionality of SQL Workshop, perhaps going to Data Workshop and loading your data. I've already done that, so I'll just jump to the chase and go to Object Browser. When I open my object browser in another tab, this is where I can type in schools and see that I actually have a table called NYC schools. This table is already loaded. It was loaded from spreadsheet data, and I can see all the columns. And in fact, I can go to the data tab and see all the raw data. This is just another way for me as a developer to look at my data. This has nothing to do with your custom app development yet, but I do see NYC schools. Having seen NYC schools, this is where I want to leverage the ability to go back and specify how I want to create a new app. It's NYC schools is my data source. I'm going to go to App Builder right now. I can see all the various other apps I personally have in this workspace. Some of them have been installed from the gallery. Some of them have been created from scratch. This is where the New York City demo app actually lives, but I'm just going to go ahead and create a new app just to show you how it works. So when I hit create, this is when I see the opportunities for create an application. We do have an app wizard approach. We also have an approach where you can create an app using generative AI. That's what we're going to do. But you can also just create an app from a file. So if you arrived in your workspace where you have no data, you could specify this option, then load your spreadsheet data, your JSON data, or XML as part of the steps. But I've already done that. So I'm going to create an app using generative AI. In doing so, this is where the Apex Assistant opens. It's saying, let's create an app together, describe the app, including the data or tables that we'll use. And I've already copied into my clipboard, create an app to manage NYC schools in quotes. And this is, I'm desiring it with a faceted search and a report, a dashboard page, an interactive report that links to a form page. Now, these are concepts in Apex, but at the end of the day, the large language model responded, well, yeah, sure, I can create an app with the following pages. And it's all on the data set that I pointed out in the quotes. It'll have a dashboard, a faceted search, another report page called an interactive report, as well as a form to facilitate data entry. I could also continue the conversation and ask to turn features on, maybe add other pages, but I'm just going to go ahead and jump forward and choose to create application. So I used AI to initiate this. I'm now leaving the world of AI here and being handed over to the Apex process that comes next, which is called the blueprint process. And in doing so, I can choose an icon, maybe a different color. Maybe I want to choose the theme or the style of the theme. And in this case, I'm going to choose to go with Redwood Light. Apex does ship with universal theme, and there are several different styles. But here I then see those suggested pages that came from the AI. I also have the ability to add a new page. Notice there is no map page here, but maybe I want to add one now. I could do that right here. Or I can just explore and see that I have other features enabled, and maybe I don't need activity reporting as suggested by the AI interaction. Or maybe I want to add other features. I can turn those off and on right here at the blueprint step. But if everything else is good, I can choose to create application. So if I had not been explaining any of this to you, everyone now, imagine you sign into your own workspace, you have your data, create app, create it from a file, load the file, you get the data, then use AI to create the app, boom. You're right where we are now. This is now a representation in the Apex IDE of all the different pages that were just created. Now, a unique thing about Apex is it's not file-based. This is just a way that Apex is very different from other platforms. It's not high code at all, as you'll see, but I can now choose to run this app, or I could choose to edit any of these pages. We'll come back to that. But when I choose to run app, it's opening a new tab by way of URL. And by the URL, I see it's on this Oracle Apex instance. It's from my workspace, and the name of this app is NYC Schools Management. I'm being challenged for credentials. I do have credentials. I'm a workspace administrator, so I can sign in. Now that I'm signed in, I'm on my homepage, which is this dashboard, which has a pie chart. I can go to the hamburger menu and I can see that there's a directory page. And this is a faceted search where I have all those records. I can click on the titles to sort the data. I can sort based on interest. I can filter just like I did in the demonstration of the other app down to 8 records with the filter of King. I can also filter down to that one engineering school. So my slice and dicing of the data works perfectly well. And I didn't even have to use or know anything about HTML, CSS, or JavaScript. It all just works. That is the beauty and the power of using Apex to build your apps. And this is just the start. This other page here is what we call an interactive report component. It's a different kind of region. It's at its defaults now because I just built the app. I can still filter my data, but there's something else going on here. The fact that when I built this page and Apex helped me, it's rendering this report with all the columns for all the records. We have to make some fine tuning here. And as an Apex developer, or a user, I can go into this actions button and see a whole bunch of other feature functionality on top of this report, on top of my data that I have control over. I can choose to go to columns and decide which columns I want to see or don't want to see using this widget. Once I do that and apply, my report looks a little bit more easy to handle. And in fact, I can still filter and I can even have multiple search terms and filter down the law. In fact, this actions button has all kinds of other feature functionality like sorting and aggregating. It has the ability to do highlighting or control break. I can actually do a chart here, group bys and pivots. I can save this report as a custom report. And in fact, end users can save dozens, if not hundreds of reports here. They can build their own reports on top of the data. That means something to them. They can also download the data, which is supported by PDF, Excel, HTML, or CSV. They can also create subscriptions whereby Apex can automatically email you a report on any particular schedule you wish. It's really cool that all this functionality is available from just one world-class component on the page of your Apex application. Now, that's fine. I don't need to filter my data. I can clear all that, or I can just observe some other functionality that was built here automatically for me. And that includes this create button. When I hit create, if you remember in the blueprint step, or actually the AI step, the large language model came back based on my request. I wanted a report, which this is, and a form. And what it's doing is it's linking the two together. So if I hit the create button, it's opening another page in a different configuration called a drawer. And this user interface is populated with all the UI necessary to accommodate all the columns automatically. Now, this may not be ideal for your production app, but you as a developer have full control over all this. You can remove things, make things read-only. You can add all kinds of validations, all kinds of business logic right here on this one particular page if you wish. But if I close this dialog, I can choose another approach. Maybe I want to edit this page for Bronx Engineering. That's what this icon in the first column of the report is. And what happens here is Apex linked by way of this icon, the ID of that school, passing it to this other page where not only do I have the UI to facilitate data entry, a query was executed and data returned as it populated the user interface to facilitate this data entry. And that's why we now have full CRUD support from this app. I can even make an edit and hit apply changes. Now, the thing is, this is full CRUD, create, report, update, and delete. And still, as an Apex developer, I didn't need any code at all to make this possible. I don't have a map page. Maybe looking at the dashboard, maybe I don't want a pie chart. Maybe I want to add another chart, or maybe I want to change this to be a bar chart. Let's think on that a bit. So that was just an example of building an app. It's production ready and secure, and it literally took seconds. If you have your own data set and your own Apex workspace to get started, you as well could do this literally in seconds. But what else can you do with Apex? I mean, yeah, you can build new cloud apps, but you also can build mobile apps. In fact, that same app I built is ready to go on my mobile device just by way of the URL, because with a modern web browser, The whole responsive repositioning things on the screen is all automatic based on the universal theme that ships with Apex. You can also build SaaS extensions and EBS extensions. They're a perfect candidate for using Apex to continue to add more value to some of the commercial off-the-shelf software you might be already using. Beyond that, another big use case is modernizing Oracle Forms. Turning spreadsheets into apps is just one tip of the iceberg example, as I've demonstrated with that New York City school app. But imagine if you had a more complex data model. Maybe it's all relational across dozens, if not hundreds of tables. You can leverage the large language model approach or the AI assistant approach to build all the pages on top of all those components, and then go back as the developer and fine tune everything for your particular set of requirements. If you're a data scientist, you can build apps that do data mart reporting. Now, it is not meant to compete with Oracle Analytics Cloud. I mean, that's more of a turnkey solution that is ready to go on top of your data. It's all configurable. Apex is about custom applications for a particular business set of requirements. But you can overlap some of that functionality. And in fact, there are customers that bring OAC reports and dashboards into their Apex apps, which is also possible. From there, you can also leverage ORDS, or Oracle REST Data Services, as the web server to do external data sharing, because with ORDS, even through Apex, you can publish endpoints that can be consumed by REST for other services that you may have in your organization. So again, it's not generally if Apex can be used to build any particular web solution. It really is about, how do I do this? How do I do that? At the end of the day, real productivity is what we're talking about, and this is all about the less code, the better. The less code means it's simpler, and simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And from Apex's perspective, productivity comes from the abstraction, not automation. Apex is not a code generator. So let's be clear. That's why it's not file-based. You're not using Apex to generate all that HTML and CSS and JavaScript when you're using the features of the IDE from a no-code, low-code perspective. It's all about, you're using less code. It's less to code, it's less to test, and it's less to maintain. While AI can write JavaScript and relatively well, Apex removes the need through the declarative definitions that we have through the approach of working with these world-class components. Sometimes you drag and drop, sometimes you start with the wizard like we did, or you use AI to help us, and then you go back behind the scenes and start making changes, which I will give you an example of in just a moment. So let's go ahead and make some changes to that app. I kind of hinted at some of the things we're going to do. One of the things we can achieve, let's tackle this. I see this chart, it's a pie chart. It might be a better use of this information to do it as a bar chart. And the question is, how do I do that as an Apex developer? Well, I can go back to Apex Builder. I can see that homepage is the New York City Schools overview page, and I could choose to click right here as a developer. But you've probably noticed by now that when I'm running the app in the other tab, I have this bar at the bottom. And this is what we call the Apex Developer Toolbar. And I have a shortcut that is a link to page 1. It's the same thing from the app builder as clicking page 1 here. So if I illustrate that, I click that button. It is in fact bringing me back to the Apex Builder, but now I'm seeing a new view in the Apex Builder that you haven't seen yet before. And this is called Page Designer. This Page Designer is organizing everything from a particular set of configurations on the screen. I have a left pane, I have a right pane, I have this middle pane, and even a bottom section. And even on the left pane, it's organized in sub-tabs. Even on the right side, I have one tab for page, but if I click on what's representing the chart, I'll go from the region to also showing an attributes tab. The fact is, many components have many properties that are all declarative and shown on the right side here. I can scroll down and see all these properties. So that's for the actual region itself. But if I go to the attributes tab, I see all the properties that have to do with the actual region in terms of what can be further configured. It may be different here in this tab depending on the type of region it is. Now, this is a region type of chart. If I click on the select list, you'll see all the different region types that are available, but it is a chart and I'm fine with that. And in fact, this drawer down here, this component drawer, shows a list of other regions, other items, other buttons, And all of these can be dragged and dropped to positions in your actual layout view. And that's what this component view is. I'm going to go ahead and collapse this here. And I'm going to go back to see that, all right, I'm selecting my chart. That's this green highlighted item here. And I want to change it from a pie chart where it's defined here to be a bar chart. I've just made that change and I hit save. So now I've saved that declarative configuration, which we call metadata, back in that Oracle Apex or that Oracle database instance. Now, if I go back to my tab where the app is running, okay, no changes. Go to my navigation, no changes. Well, that's because I made the change, I saved the change, but what I need to do is refresh the page. So Apex is all about one request and one response. And now that I've done that, I see that my new chart is still the same chart, but I've changed its configuration to be rendered as a bar chart. Pretty cool. So let's take it another level higher. I want a new page. I can navigate to the top level here. And in doing so, this is where I see the Create Page button. And with this Create Page button, I see a bunch of different design patterns I can choose from, and one of them is a map. So if we go back to the running page, I don't have a map page here, but I can use the builder to create one. I click on Map. I can then give it a name. I'll call it Map. And then this is where I can literally paste in my data source. There it is, New York City Schools as a table. I could have used the quick pick to navigate. But the point is, notice my data source is listed as local database. It could be REST-enabled SQL. It could be a REST data source or an endpoint, and even a JSON source. So this is where you can leverage that third-party data. And in fact, it doesn't have to just be a table or a view. It could be a raw SQL query where we're leveraging via DB links, other objects. Maybe we're using public synonyms or other private synonyms, or maybe we want to join with other data. And that can be achieved with a raw SQL query right here at this step of the wizard. Beyond that, you can make all these other customizations to the navigation, like including the icon that will be used, but I'm fine with the defaults. I hit next. Having done this, I have further choices where I can define the map style and the map attributes. I actually have longitude and latitude columns, so I can just map those, longitude to longitude, latitude to latitude. And I want my tooltip not to be borrow, but be the school name. And I do also want a faceted search configuration or component on the page. So I hit Create Page. Now we're returned back to Page Designer. So this is where, as a developer, I can continue, making changes, right? I can see this is where the map is. This is a map based on this data. That's the type it is of this particular region. It does have attributes, and maybe I can see what those attributes are, and I want mouse wheel zoom to be enabled. And in fact, I can look a little bit further and see this is where the faceted search will be on the left, and we can see the filtered region is that map region. There is other information here on the screen, and I could delve into it as I learn and experiment with the Apex Page Designer, but I'm just going to save that one change I made. In any case, I go back to the app. I don't see anything having to do with map because I have to refresh my page. So in doing so, I now see there's a map option in the navigation. I can click on it, and now I'm brought back to where that map is, rendering all those data points. And it's wired up with JavaScript where I can search and filter and have my report refresh automatically. I can even use my mouse zoom because I enabled that functionality. Super cool. And all this was done with no code at all. So it's all about the Apex declarative abstraction versus high code argument. Take, for example, another request that you might have from business requirements. Show the commission field only when the employee's job is salesman. Now, from a high code perspective or software engineer's perspective, we're thinking about business logic. We're thinking about the code we're developing in. But with Apex, you can do things declaratively that align with this particular set of requirements perfectly. And this is what we call a dynamic action. So this is what it would look like in Apex. How does it look with high code? It looks like this. And this is all JavaScript, right? This is just a snippet of it. But what would you rather use? Declarative, less code to maintain, or no code in this case, where it's easy to see what's happening, it's easy to maintain it, or would you rather deal with all this high code? For me, I'm not about the high code at all. The difference is between telling a system what to do to meet your business requirements versus how to do it. And in Apex, it becomes something where you don't have to worry about how. The how is handled by us. You just need to figure out what parameters, what declarative settings give you what you need from there. Now, the OG vibe coding platform. OG is original gangster. What is the original gangster vibe coding platform, do you think? Well, you may not have known this, but Apex has been around for over 20 years. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary last year. It was first known and released in 2004 as HTML as version 1.5. Our name changed to Oracle Application Express, and now we're known as Oracle Apex. But what is the OG vibe coding platform? Well, it is Oracle Apex. So it's all about leveraging these world-class features declaratively with no code at all first. And this is just since 2019, before the pandemic, where we introduced that faceted search I showed you on the page multiple times. It became a declarative no-code option right there. Then we added the cards region. Then we added the map region. And now everybody that's an Apex developer can leverage these kinds of features natively with no code. And we've evolved over those years and many evolutionary steps of Apex, where we now have visual workflows as well as tight integration with your large language model of choice for AI-assisted development. It's what we call generative development, which we haven't had a chance to really dive into the weeds on, but at a high level, you can now use AI to develop apps. You can also leverage what we call the Apex AI Assistant to do even more. And with our latest release of Apex, there's now support for data models being created using AI, as well as declarative RAG, which goes above and beyond just a simple invocation of the interaction of a chatbot. Boils down to the fact that these world-class components are declarative in Apex first. No code is generated as an Apex developer builds out an app in this way, and it becomes easy to maintain. And that is a critical step in understanding how all this fits together because of all those world-class components. Now, where does this guy Jason fit into this? Beyond being the guy talking about Apex today, I want to just tell you that I got my journey started with Apex also about 20 years ago, just after a few years of Apex first hitting the scene. And this cartoon illustrates that journey I started very well. It's the high code versus low code approach. And in fact, I used to be a software engineer, and I used to be a Java developer and a .NET developer. And then in 2006, I had a colleague tell me about the next release of Oracle Application Express, which has been since renamed as Oracle Apex, coming out. Back then, that was about to be Oracle Apex 3.0. But the thing is, this cartoon, which has been published on LinkedIn, illustrates this perspective in 2006 that I had very well. I was this guy pushing a cart of all this technology around, a lot of it high code based, to do the things that people were becoming able to do with just Oracle Apex. Now, is it the vibe coding in the sense of using vibe coding in AI today? No, it's much better, in fact. But back then, there was no AI, and we were able to declaratively do all these high code type things with no code. So that's pretty cool. But getting back to that new 2025, 2026 approach to vibe coding, they're AI code generator tools. They create one-off apps that are not easily maintained, and they result in high code maintenance. Now, you may be able to vibe code it and iterate over it, but every time you do, that code has to be evaluated by you and code reviewed maybe by your software development manager. From there, it may need to be reviewed from a security perspective. Who knows? Through every iteration, you cannot necessarily trust all the components that are delivered through that interaction. In fact, no one understands that code because nobody wrote it. And this is a great quote from our very own Juan Loaiza, our executive vice president of Oracle Database. He mentions this a lot, and he's absolutely right. Who wants to go behind that AI agent or AI large language model interaction that developed a high code app to figure out what comes next? Well, with Apex, the generative development proposition, yes, you can create data models using AI, you can create apps using AI, but there's also an AI assistant for natural language to SQL, and I'm going to show you more about that. We also have illustrated in this last quadrant that you can have AI-powered chatbots that can even be powered with no-code RAG, and you can even invoke further large language model interactions via a no-code AI service by way of API. Apex ships with a very robust JavaScript API for the front end, as well as a very robust PL/SQL API that leverages further features and functionality of Oracle Database. Now, we're talking about AI now, all about generative development. But a key thing about all of this is to understand that even with Oracle AI Database 26 AI, Oracle Apex requires your AI service to be configured, and the Apex side of the conversation in each workspace. So just because you have an Apex workspace doesn't mean you have AI for anything. Just like if you have an Oracle AI Database 26 AI instance to work with as a developer, you don't just have AI at your fingertips. You have to configure it for every interaction as a developer. In Apex, when you sign into your workspace, you need to go to your workspace utilities and you need to configure a generative AI service before you see all that feature functionality. So to give you eyes on that, I can go back to my Apex builder in my browser. If I go to the app builder, this is where I see that workspace utilities. And when I go here in my workspace, you'll see I have a variety of workspace large language models configured right here in the generative AI option. When I go here, I see 4 different records. One of them is OCI Gen AI, but a key thing to understand here also is that it is configured to be used by App Builder. If this is all no, then you will not see the options of creating an app using AI or creating a data model using AI or the AI assistant available in our code editors. And in fact, if I click create here, you will see we support currently 3 major AI providers out of the box that you can configure as an Apex developer with no code. That includes the OCI Generative AI service, OpenAI, and Cohere. And in fact, the OpenAI standard will allow you to leverage other AI service large language models as well. But once you've configured your particular large language model, it looks something like this. So I've already got my OCI Gen AI service configured. I'm going to use this particular model. This one is configured to be used by App Builder, and I can hit Test Connection. When I do that, I get a response that comes back as this green connection succeeded. Once you see this, you then will see all the AI things in your Apex instance. So if I go to SQL Workshop, this is where I'll see a task for creating a data model using AI. It looks something like this, where I can literally choose, oh, let's create a sample project and task data model. It comes back with a response. I could iterate over it with a conversation or jump right into SQL Workshop Quick SQL with that suggested AI configuration. This is the Quick SQL syntax that represents all the high code of the DML necessary or DDL that's necessary to render these objects in Oracle Database, or I can just look at the diagram. If I chose to review and run this script, these objects get built. I could then go back to App Builder and I could choose to create and then create an app using generative AI. That's how it comes together. Now, from there, there's so much more. So the custom data model is just one example. Creating apps using natural language, you've seen that working so far. You've seen what it looks like. Creating apps using generative AI will only show up in this UI or this wizard if you have an AI service configured in your workspace. Assuming you've done that and you get success, you're then able to do all the things in the builder. But that's just the beginning. You can work with AI-assisted SQL authoring by way of the Apex AI Assistant in our code editors. So you can interact with the AI large language model to help you build SQL statements if you're not familiar with SQL. You can do complex things. You can even debug your SQL. There's so many cool things you can do. And it looks like this. So this is just one code editor. Imagine the series on that chart. Maybe it looks something like this. But you have this button for Apex Assistant. Again, conditionally shown only when you have a large language model available to you configured in your workspace. It then opens this chatbot on the right, and you can switch between Query Builder and General Assistance. So from there, I'm going to show you a short 2-minute video that summarizes the developer capabilities you then have going forward. This is what it looks like from the SQL Workshop Quick SQL perspective. And my colleague, architect Steve Minch, recorded this video that will walk you through some of these various scenarios and how you can leverage AI generative development in Apex today. Have a listen.
In Oracle Apex, we start with a data model describing the information our app will manage. Then, to let users find, visualize, and modify that data, we create pages in Page Designer. In every page, to configure what data each region should display or edit, we use the declarative SQL language developers have loved for 50 years. For example, on a revenue overview page, while defining a chart, we can just type in the SQL if we know it. But the Apex Assistant offers a productive new approach using natural language. To show the sum of the amount due for patient procedures in the preceding 24 months, group by month, we just literally type those words. Apex Assistant generates the SQL statement, and our chart's working immediately. On another page showing recent medical procedures, to let end users report on a list of patient names, procedure descriptions, total amount, and doctor names for patient procedures in the past 60 days with the most recent ones first, we just type in that thought. Apex Assistant knows how our tables are related, so it generates the SQL with joins to get the job done. We roll out our report in record time. While working on our app, we can ask Apex Assistant for help on any questions or doubts we have about SQL, like what's the difference between a join and a left outer join? Like having a personal SQL coach and mentor, it explains the answer with concrete examples to help us learn. Apex Assistant is also available in SQL Workshop, so we can use it to iteratively refine our queries. We start with a simple select showing patient names and just tell it what else we want the query to retrieve. Add a count of medical procedures done by each patient. It updates the query, and we run to see the new results. Add the cost of each patient's most expensive medical procedure in the last year, and only show the patients with at least one procedure, showing the most expensive ones first. This is really an amazing new way to be productive at building data-centric apps. If we write a query that encounters an error, we ask Apex Assistant to explain the error and help us fix it. Each interaction is a chance to learn as Apex Assistant helps us understand what went wrong and what to do instead. As Apex developers, using these same SQL skills, we can work with every kind of data imaginable. And no matter our skill level, the AI-powered Apex Assistant helps us write SQL, learn SQL, debug SQL, as well as write code using PL SQL.
So that's just an overview of the generative development perspective of what you can do with Apex as a developer with an AI service configured in the workspace. And I'm back to my cartoon. And, I love this cartoon so much, but I didn't create it. So I wanted to leverage some other AI service to try to reimagine this by way of prompting, because that's really the future of what we're doing and where we're going with Apex development in general, right? Well, this is what came back, and I did this for a particular cooking with Apex session I did this past summer, where I was a chef in a kitchen, and I wanted to imagine that same slide with all that old technology, that high code and an old horse-drawn wagon piled up high, seeing the opportunity to talk to another chef in the kitchen on roller skates, because he's a developer, that he's agile, he's rapid, right? And he's saying, yeah, that's all you need is Apex. But the thing is, I never had anything in my prompt about adding a third arm to this chef, which is supposed to be me, right? I don't have 3 arms, but here we see that extra hand, that extra arm. And this is one of the caveats of when you're working with AI to do anything. You need to make sure that whatever comes out of that AI request or that AI interaction, that it's suitable. That's where you got to do code reviews again, right? If it's high code, even more, maybe security reviews. But the thing is, we got to give AI a little bit of slack here. Maybe it knew this chef needed an extra hand or 3 arms to juggle all of that high technology. Who knows? But you got to be aware of the caveat. AI is not a silver bullet, at least not yet. But with Apex, you can build intelligent enterprise apps that you can trust, that are easy to maintain. And that is the big, big value proposition here. From there, we have a variety of hands-on labs available on our website, and one of them is this New York City Schools app I demonstrated, building an innovative Q&A interface powered by generative AI. But we have other advanced labs that include various feature functionality only available in Oracle Database 26 AI, like vector search when it comes down to semantic search. We have a whole bunch of new functionality that is explained in these particular live labs that are available. But what we have concentrated on today, everything you've seen currently and will continue to work on Oracle Database 19c. So bear that in mind going forward. Now, just a quick segue before we wrap up. I want to talk about some upcoming features So here's a safe harbor statement. The following is intended to outline our general product direction. Having said that, we do have a roadmap or statement of direction website, and our next release of Apex coming next calendar year will be known as the Oracle Apex AI Application Generator, but more commonly known as Apex 26.1. Now, granted, we've been a bit delayed with all our AI investments at Oracle, and that includes pumping up Apex in the next release with all kinds of new value-added features. One in particular, however, is going to be, imagine being able to generate metadata-driven apps like Apex does. So what you've seen so far is I can be a developer using Page Designer to declaratively configure and drag stuff on the page. I can use an AI interaction to help me with the blueprint. But what if AI could generate that end result deterministically? Well, this will be, with AI, APEXlang. And APEXlang will make this possible. You'll be able to iterate with a large language model to spit out these file formats known as APEXlang. It's a domain-specific language, and it will bring more value after the quick start of Apex as it currently is by being easy to maintain while facilitating robust source control and DevOps, because APEXlang files will be human-readable code that really isn't that much code, but it is deterministic, and it's easy to code review for software development managers. It's easy to review for security issues. It's easy to review and maintain in general in the future of your apps and making it easier to maintain. For more information, take a look at our statement of direction. And in fact, I can go to another tab. I can go to apexoracle.com and go to /SOD. And this is what it looks like. And AI assisted development is only going to get better. APEXlang is going to be coming, and we're going to have other support for AI tools, think MCP servers and various tool functionality, and even more than that, natural language support for interactive report. Maybe you don't want to filter on King or Law like I did, but maybe you want to speak it and then have it actually filter the data. Data reporter is going to be huge, and the list goes on. So there's a lot of great and exciting new things coming down the pipe. For more information, hit that QR code and take a look at what we're planning to deliver. Now, what does this really mean? Is that you will not need to choose both. You have a choice of our integrated development environment or our future open application specification language known as APEXlang. And you can leverage your favorite editor known as like VS Code and other tools like Klein or Codex and MCP server configurations to configure and continue to iterate over your apps, and bringing vibe coding to the whole, 2026. You're going to be able to do all this cool stuff. It's going to be so much fun. The value proposition and the differentiation continues to widen the gap. We're highly differentiated today. We're going to continue to be even further highly differentiated. Beyond that, just know that even Juan Loaiza has said, when you write an Apex app, it's mission critical out of the box. It's a key part of generative development. For more information about our training and certifications, take a look at the learning path you need to follow that we have published on our website. It's free training. It's available through Oracle University. And once you've gone through that training, you can opt to take the certification test and get that badge on your resume, on your social media, and then just be recognized in the large Apex community as another vibrant contributor as an Apex certified developer. Very exciting opportunity. And that's all available on oracleapex.com, where you can get started if you choose, and then sign into a customer evaluation workspace here if you wish to follow that path. Again, in your organization, you may opt for your own always free instance on OCI or on a multi-cloud provider of your choice, or mix and match, whatever you like to do. Oracle Apex is portable. So there we have it. Thank you, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed this journey learning about Oracle Apex and generative development with the help of AI and no code. My name again has been Jason Haynes. You can find me on LinkedIn, X, Facebook, and YouTube. There's my email address. I'd love to hear how you're being successful in your organization, leveraging the Oracle Stack, Oracle Database, and maybe even your success with OCI, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, using Apex to be successful building any kind of web application that solves all your business needs. Thank you for spending this time with me, and we'll hopefully hear from you soon.